And then I heard, hide her. Those are the words I heard. I don't even know what language, because the trains were coming and children were no use. So my mother, I was so small that my mother moved the chair. I remember my father picked me up, and she and I went inside there, and my father fixed it up outside so that you can't see that there was a cutout or anything else, and he hung up some things, and then I heard the screaming downstairs, heraus, heraus, out, schnell, out, and they began shooting. Another miracle. They didn't know we were there, but they just did it, just shot all over, and there were these bullets flying on both sides. I'm sitting on my mother's lap. She always protected me with her body, and she put her hand on my mouth. She kept it so tightly that for weeks later I had black and blue marks here, just like that. And from a little window I saw all the kids I played with. I didn't know any adults. All the little kids, they were put on those trucks. And those trucks we knew because the day before or 2 days before, all the adults, able-bodied adults, dug the graves. First they dug the graves for their parents, like my father did. Now they dug the graves for their own children.
These were the words spoken to a captive audience at Woodrow Wilson Middle School by Tova Friedman, resident of Highland Park and Holocaust survivor.
I'm here today to share the story and to speak for 1.5 million children who were murdered in the Holocaust through my own story. Because my own story would not be that relevant if it doesn't represent also their story. But they just didn't make it, and I did.
And then my mother says like this to me: you can no longer be on the street. There are no children outside. You can't be seen by anybody. I'm going to lock you up in this room. And that's what she did. She locked me up. She put some curtains or whatever on the window. I don't remember. It was dark inside, I know. And in the morning when she left on the trucks to go to work at 5 or 6 in the morning, I was left there without anything.
She spent time speaking with students, not to scare or horrify them, but to teach them.
And she only came at night, whatever time it was, I don't know time. I had no watch. It was very dark. And that's when she came in, she and my father, and they gave me a piece of bread to eat. I was in that room for, I would say, weeks. But you know, I can't remember much about it. Let me tell you, when you're all alone, in the dark, with no stimulation, your mind, what I call dissociates, your mind goes somewhere. It doesn't feel anything. It goes to sleep or something. I don't really know. The only thing I remember thinking, that I am the last Jewish child left on earth, and I better stay alive.
When children are young in school, you can still have an effect on them, and I want to emphasize the danger of bullying, of being prejudiced, of having hatred for people who are just different from you. What it can lead to, as I said, if you don't stop that early, it becomes a destructive force. And it's still going on in the world right now. This is why the Holocaust is so relevant, and the story of the Holocaust is so relevant.
And then one day she comes in. See, they had killed enough people in that camp, in that labor camp. They have starved enough. They shot enough. They deported enough. Now the trains were coming and they had room. So my mother comes and she says, we're going to Auschwitz.
I think they take it to heart because I see their reaction. And then I get these wonderful letters. And the letters tell me that they really got it. And maybe they'll take it with them to adulthood. Maybe they'll have an effect. I don't know. But I certainly have to do my part.
Did you see the horrible things that were left? That was the same week that the movie was taken, that they wanted to leave no witnesses. When the ovens were full of half-burned people and bodies were all over. The whole place was strewn with bodies and they wanted no witnesses. crazy? But they took 50,000 people with them, and they marched, and 95% of these people died because they marched in the snow without shoes and starving. And my mother said to me, I can't do it. I'm not going to go on that march. I'm not going. I'm going to die here in Auschwitz. I want you to die with me because I don't want you to live anymore. I want you to die with me here. Will you die with me here? And I said, yes.
She was 6.5 years old when the Russian army liberated her and her mother from Auschwitz, making her one of the youngest survivors of the Holocaust and only one of 5 children who survived from her hometown of Tomaszów, Poland. Prior to World War II, her town held over 5,000.
I'm almost the last one of my entire town. My town has disappeared. That's it. Nobody left. So I have to make sure that I give my message.
Her incredible story of survival is as much about luck as it is about her parents' unending effort to protect her.
But they set fire to that hospital, and all of a sudden my mother uncovered me, and those words she said, they're gone. They took all those thousands of people, they walked out of camp, and the Russians are on their way. I got out of bed, she took my hand, and we walked to the petrified, to the electrified barbed wires. You know, you couldn't touch them, you die immediately. So we waited until the Russians arrived. There was January 27, 1945. I was exactly 6.5 years old.
She tells her story countless times to audiences from all over, to anyone who will listen, in hopes that humanity will someday learn that a life of hatred and bigotry will only lead to unthinkable consequence.
They really get it. That's all I can do. I can just go from place to place and talk about my personal experiences and hoping that at least if one person in the audience makes a difference when they grow up, I'm done my job.